What's up, everyone? I'm gonna give you guys a tour of the fish factory today. I'm gonna give you a little bit of the backstory and the purpose behind everything. It's gonna be a lot of fun, so let's get started. This tank is probably the best place to start with a tour and give you the story of how I got into this hobby and all the different phases I've went into throughout. The tank behind me is a brackish leopard puffer tank. Currently, I only have one leopard puffer in there. These leopard puffer fish are one of the animals that first got me really pulled into the hobby. I had started my first tank actually exactly where this tank had sat. I used to have a 10-gallon tank here with your classic community beta, and I had some tetras in there and some shrimp. And I went to my local fish store and I was looking around and I saw these guys. And at this point, my knowledge of the hobby, I had zero. I had zero knowledge of fish, really. I had no idea that puffer fish could be brackish, much less. I didn't even know what brackish was. I didn't know there was freshwater puffer fish. I just thought it was like your classic, like your porcupine fish in the ocean. I saw these guys and I was just like, whoa. I was like, these are so fun. These are so interesting. And, you know, the store owner explains to me that they're brackish. So I went home and did some research. Maybe 2 months later, I went and bought 3 of these leopard puffer fish. And if you've watched any of my videos up to this point, you'll know that I am very vulnerable about the mistakes I've made. And I put 3 juveniles in this 15-gallon cube tank I had. And they were small, but they also weren't healthy. One of the issues I have with keeping these fish actually is that all of the leopard puffers are wild caught. So they very often get pulled from their homes in the wild and put into our aquariums. And they used to get sold in Walmart as freshwater fish. These fish have a very long history of mistreatment. And it's unfortunate. And I've learned a lot through keeping these fish. But the original 3 fish I had were in this 15-gallon. Pretty quickly after setting up the tank, 2 of the original 3 puffer fish I had passed away. I believe it was probably a parasite or maybe ick at the time. I wasn't really sure. I was slowly converting them into brackish water, but I didn't really have the knowledge I have now. At the time, I was so obsessed with my tanks, and I was going and looking at it like every 15 minutes. And one time I go and I look at my tank, and I don't see my fish in there. And I'm like looking around. I'm, trying to look behind the rocks and everything. I'm like, where's this fish? And I look under the stand it had, and I saw the fish had jumped out of the tank and was on the floor, and I freaked out and I grabbed it real quick and I just threw it right in the water. And I didn't know how long it'd been out of the tank. And I watched the fish like lifeless in the water for a couple seconds, and then it just comes right back to life. And this is the same fish that I have behind me now. So this fish is probably the most sentimental of the ones that I have in the fish room or in the fish factory. And I learned a lot through keeping these fish and about the ethics of, keeping wild caught animals. I'm slowly converting this tank into a full marine tank, and eventually I'm going to put maybe some corals and dive into the saltwater hobby. I've kind of come to the conclusion those are completely separate hobbies at this point. So that's my little experiment. These guys, as they mature, move into pretty much full marine water. I'll keep you guys updated. We'll probably have a video on that in the future. Paludarium is a very special project to me. I've had this going on for about 2.5 years. I keep 3 red-eyed tree frogs in it right now, and this was one of those first projects that I really dove into the hobby. I'd really committed at this point, and I've already made a video on this, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this tour talking about this Paludarium, but it is definitely the one that got me really committed into beyond even just the aquarium hobby and fish. And I, started keeping amphibians and other animals as well. So Paludarium has just been an incredible, I mean, just it's having a jungle in your living room is just, there's something magical about it. And it really is the main showpiece when I have company over. So this is my bedroom tank, and I've had this one set up for maybe 6 months now, and it's kind of a mixture of both aquascaping and when I started to make my transition into monetizing this hobby. So what I keep in here is one powdered blue gourami, and then there's about 15 celestial pearl danios in here. And this has been a breeding tank for a while. Yeah, all the danios in this tank are ones that I had bred, and I had set up a automatic egg catcher for that. I did a couple different methods. I currently don't have any fry right now, but I am going to eventually start breeding them again. I'm looking at setting up a website here soon and really kind of getting this thing going. I've really enjoyed having this tank in my room. I'm thinking about actually trading out the pearl danios and putting them in a separate tank and moving my pea puffers in here, because those are really my favorite fish, and I like to watch them a little bit more than the danios. The danios are really beautiful, but from where I'm laying in my bed, I can't necessarily see their colors pop as much as I would like. And I find just with a group of pea puffers, it's just very fun to watch them swim. Unfortunately, in this tour, I'm only getting to show you guys the current tanks that I have. Over the last several years, I've kept a lot of different fish in my bedroom. I used to have the leopard puffers that I started this video with in this 20-gallon tank in my bedroom for a short period of time. And then I kept axolotl in here. And I would say probably the axolotl is my favorite one that I've kept in my bedroom. This is one of those tanks that I go back and forth on as far as like what I want to do and the setup that I want. And having a fish tank in your bedroom can be nice, but sometimes one that's too big, it's a little much, especially if you don't keep up on the maintenance, and it kind of becomes the opposite of what you wanted it to be as far as a calming tank to look at night. But these fish are super easy to keep, super easy to breed. I'll probably make a video on that here in the future as well. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. So this is the last tank in the house that is a true display tank. I have right now 2 betta fish in there. and 2 peacock gudgeons. This is the last tank that I have set up that is really a true aquascape tank. This used to be a tank I was breeding a blue dream colony in, and I was doing really well with that. But I ended up moving them into the next setup that you guys are going to see, which is my breeding setup. I actually just noticed yesterday one of the betas has ick, so I'm treating it so the water might look a little dark from the image here. I'm doing a little experimental beta breeding project right now. I have a female beta that's in quarantine, and I'm waiting for the male to lay its bubble nest so I can try breeding some betas. I've had this tank set up now for a little over a year. But yeah, not a whole lot to share with this tank. I might rescape it soon, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, let's move on to the last stop of the tour. So this room is where the magic happens, and you can see how I transitioned from some fun aquascaping tanks with fun fish into full-blown addiction here. When I first set this rack up, it was with the intentions of breeding fish. I ended up really just leaning into the shrimp side of it. I found out early on that it was really easy to breed and sell shrimp online for a lot of reasons. Shrimp are just really easy to breed in general. They're really easy to ship, and they require very little care compared to other animals I kept. And when I was really doing this last year, I was working 2 jobs, and it was hard for me to really give the attention to other fish that I would have liked to have bred. So the tank on my left is mostly shrimp right now. I do have some pea puffers in one of the tanks, but this is definitely where I transitioned from the hobby just being from the hobby being about a thing that I love to do to me trying to monetize it. And I don't know 100% how I feel about that still. I believe in financial responsibility, and I have worked very hard in my 20s, put myself in a position where I could even own a house and much less put 20 tanks in it. At the same time, there's a part of me that is upset by the way that Americans feel like we have to monetize our hobbies in order to get by or to get ahead in this economy and in this society right now. And I've really enjoyed trying to monetize. This is a large part of why I'm starting this YouTube channel and putting out content is so I can continue to build my own little brand. And I'm following the footsteps of a lot of the people I see on the internet who are turning their passions and hobbies into a means of living. And I think that can be a really beautiful thing. I also see the downfall of it where I have 16 tanks on this rack here, and I do enjoy keeping the shrimp. If I was doing it, if I had won the lottery tomorrow, I would have a lot of different things in these tanks. I'm actually, after finishing this fish store, I'm going to go buy some rams and put them in here. I've always just thought those were really cool fish, and I wanted to keep some for a while. And I've just decided I'm going to dedicate one of the tanks to doing that. All of these tanks are 10 gallons. They're on a cobalt rack with 3 layers. The one on the left I set up maybe a year and a half ago. This one's been going on for about 8 months over here. And the big 40 gallon on top is just cherry shrimp. And I actually started an Endler line like a week ago in there just because the red cherry shrimps are really oversaturated in the market. People just aren't buying them as much. I am currently working on building a fish room in my backyard so that I can move the breeding projects out there. I do have some concerns with having this many tanks in the house and the liability of disaster if a tank burst or something weird happened. Also, fish tanks are not light. I know all of these are 10 gallons, but there's 12 of them on one of these racks. It is definitely over 1,000 pounds, and I do not have. My home is an older home, so I am concerned about how I keep them. For example, my house is very unlevel, so the rack, when I set it up, I did not do a good job making sure it was level to begin with. So I can't fill my fish tanks up all the way to the top. Water would pour out on one side of the tank. Yeah, what you see is a lot of fish tanks here, and I don't think I enjoy all of them to the extent that I could someday. But like I said, we live in a world where most of us don't get these options to have hobbies. A lot of people can't even afford to have hobbies these days or have the time, much less. So I'm grateful to be in a position where I do get those opportunities and I do get the chance to even create the space that I've been able to create here. And I've been very lucky over my life. I've had a lot of people that have helped supported me. Yeah, that's really it. That's really everything I have for you guys in this tour. I say this in every video that I've made so far, and I'm about to hit 100 subscribers. So it's not like there's a lot of people watching these yet either way. I'm still working on video editing and all these things. It's a lot harder than I thought it was. So I definitely appreciate feedback. Like I've already said, I am trying to grow this channel into something that I can turn into, a business. I'm going to start a website this week. And I appreciate support and feedback. At the same time, I hate the grindification online of, the like and subscribe, all those things. So I don't really want to ask people to do that. But if you did enjoy anything, do let me know in the comments. It'd be really cool to engage with some people and to share some information. And I've learned some things from people already who have, made comments on some of my videos. So I really enjoy the engagement part of it. Look at outro. I don't know what the outro should be for this. I guess
Should you say fish factory?
Fish factory.
all right, I think that's it. So thanks for watching.